Hi everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your sun and rising sign horoscopes for the month of November 2021. In this video, we're going to take a look at the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chart up for you, and we'll put Aries on the ascendant to start with. And there's a lot of big transits this month. In a lot of ways, November is like the off ramp for the big, huge Capricorn energy of 2021. So we'll be talking a little bit about that for each sign in particular. Plus, this month we have a lunar eclipse in the sign of Gemini that will be a focus. So let's go ahead and dive in. If you are an Aries rising, there is a lot of emphasis on your seventh house of relationships this month. With Venus in that house, things should be relatively good and harmonious. But since you're in Aries rising, you know, the Venus energy is a little contrary to your own Mars-like nature. So that may take a little bit of work. But let's take a look. The first week, Mercury is going to be in a square with Saturn. Goes through a square, then stations, turns direct, goes through another square. That's for the first 7 or 8 days of the month. In the 7th house to the 10th house, you may be looking for negotiations or compromise and harmony, especially in the workplace. But you may find that you're being met with certain kinds of obstacles or opposition, or that something is really weighing you down or putting up the cosmic red light. And Mercury is going to be working on that. And although there's a very serious energy to Saturn in your 10th house this month, with Jupiter and Pluto about to conjoin in your 10th house of career this month, both Mercury and Venus are working to assure that if there are difficulties or obstacles, or especially a weighty or heavier feeling in the career house, that there's a promise of lightness and of the ability to work things out and find easy, peaceful solutions to whatever the hardships might be. But it may take a little doing, especially in the first week of the month, where people may be more hesitant to compromise, or you may be running up against something that looks like this unresolvable tension. But stick with it. Mercury is in the overcoming position and should provide some kind of peaceful resolution over the first week of the month. Now, if we go forward a little bit from here, on the 9th of the month, you're going to see an opposition take place between Venus and Mars. Now, this is across your first and 7th house. Mars has been retrograde in your first house for a while now and is coming to conclude its retrograde this month, which means that if you have been going through a more deeply challenging time personally, a breakdown or revision of your views or beliefs or attitudes, some period of rebelliousness or the need to create some kind of personal change, but possibly also feeling a little limited or constrained by that heavy stellium of planets in your 10th house in Capricorn, Saturn ruled sign, that will start to lighten. But on the way, there is some kind of potential standoff between Venus and Mars that happens on the 9th. Venus opposite Mars across the 1st and the 7th is about as quintessential as it gets when it comes to conflicts in relationships. So watch for that. But Venus does have the upper hand, so don't be too stubborn. Be willing to compromise, or be willing to sacrifice something of your own needs and interests. But obviously don't cave in to coercion or unfair expectations either. But I don't think that's the case. I think for Aries this month, it's a moment of a change of heart. And it's about giving up something of our own stubbornness. So watch for that in particular. Now, on the 12th, go forward a few more days, Jupiter will conjoin Pluto in your 10th house. Now, this is the catharsis that in some ways has been building all year in terms of your direction in life, your career, your profession, your vocation, or just your sense of where your life is going. There's been a lot of change and uncertainty and heavier themes with Saturn in your 10th house and with Jupiter in its fall in your 10th house. Saturn since December of 2017, Jupiter since the end of last year. So those things are coming to a close right now. But there's this last very cathartic moment where Pluto conjoins or Jupiter conjoins with Pluto. So watch for this very intense transformative moment around career, basically around the 12th of the month. Now, right after that happens, you're going to see Venus moving through Libra, and Venus is going to square Pluto, square Jupiter, square Saturn between, say, the 15th and the 19th. As it does so, again, Venus is in the overcoming position called the superior square from the seventh house of relationships and is very empowered. Venus as the peacemaker is essentially offering compromises, solutions, help, allies, resources, good fortune, often probably coming from other people, and saying, "Hey, let's overcome this situation together." Or another way that you could look at it would be to say that Venus overcoming these planets in the 10th house points to the need to reduce our own expectations or our own calcified or our own rigid um, positions, and that something Venus has to overcome something of our own stubbornness this month, and will do so especially between the 15th and the 19th, sort of saying, okay, look, if you're being unreasonable or rigid or unbending or uncompromising, something's going to come in and say, you're not the final say. There's other people that have a say or that matter in this situation that have to weigh in somehow. It's a bit of a humbling moment, in my opinion, for Aries this month. But I think that you'll be feeling very empowered by the way that things turn out. Your ruling planet Mars will turn direct on the 14th, and then boom, Venus comes through all of these squares, and it just feels to me like it's okay. Look, you're not going to get all of your way. Something of your own will and way has gotten broken down, but now there's a peaceful solution that's going to allow you to move forward and find the next step and probably feel good about it. Did you get everything you wanted? No, but there's enough to be happy about to kind of turn the page with a smile on your face. All right, so that's how I'm seeing it. You go forward to, say, the 27th. And once we get to the 27th, let me put Aries back on the ascendant there. On the 27th, you're going to see Venus oppose Uranus across the second and eighth house. Remember, Mercury actually opposes Uranus between the 16th and 17th as well. So a couple of oppositions between the eighth and the second, which could create some disturbances, or what do I want to say, destabilizing energy around the topic of money and finances, at least temporarily, or some unexpected or erratic energy coming through around finances, both your own and those of other people whose lives and resources somehow have an impact on your own. So watch for those things to come into the picture, basically the second half of the month, but peaking by November 27th when Venus in the eighth house of other people's money and resources opposes Uranus, god of revolution, in the house of your own money and resources. Now, finally, on the 30th of the month, there's going to be a lunar eclipse in Gemini in your third house. This signals all of the eclipses happening across your third and the ninth house have a kind of intellectual feeling to them, meaning that your mind is changing. Your view and understanding of yourself and of life and reality and others is changing. Sometimes eclipses in the third house will have something to do with siblings or your neighborhood or people or things that are close to the roots somehow for you, especially since the moon also rules your fourth house of home and family. But it can also speak to some kind of transformation that you're going through mentally or intellectually. Be careful that there isn't too much of an aura of defiance mentally or in communication this month. And be careful that you're not trying to twist or manipulate facts or information to suit you, which sometimes can be the case with the North Node in Gemini, a Mercury ruled sign. In the Indian tradition, Rahu can be a little sneaky like that. So be on the watch for that in particular. But otherwise, I think it's a powerful sign, not only at the end of the month, but for months to come, as eclipses take a while to play out, of there being a theme of mental or intellectual transformation occurring in your life, which often happens as we're learning something new or developing new skills or new technology, other things like that. Let's start over again for Leo, and we'll put Leo on the ascendant and take a look at all the transits if you're a Leo sun or Leo rising. So the same basic configurations are going to be running through the month ahead for all the signs. We're just looking at which house combinations they're going to touch upon. We can see right here that these are the three houses. If you are a Leo rising, you're going to experience the majority of this month's astrological transits in. The third house, the ninth house, and the sixth house. At the beginning of the month, first 7 days of the month, Mercury is squaring Saturn. twice, once through a retrograde, once by direct motion. And then a little bit further into the month, by the 9th or so, Venus will oppose Mars across the 3rd and the 9th house axis. And then between the 15th and the 19th, Venus will overcome through a superior square Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. Interesting thing is also that right around the 12th, you're going to see Jupiter and Pluto get into a conjunction in Capricorn. So these three houses, these three areas of life that are at the focus, if you're a focus of November, if you're a Leo sun or Leo rising, what do these houses have in common? They are all houses that are were called, you might have heard me say this before, they were called metacosmios. One of the things that that word points to are like liminal spaces, reflective spaces, mental, spiritual, psychological spaces. So a lot of the changes for you this month, if you're a Leo rising, are psychological. Now, Venus is sort of leading the way. Venus in the 3rd house is really trying to establish the importance of a peaceful mind, a peaceful environment, harmony, beauty, resolution, compromise, friendship. And that energy in the 3rd house is it's overcoming all of the Capricornian energy in the 6th house. Now, what is the MO of the 6th house? It has so much to do with, this was traditionally the house of misfortune, and not, it doesn't have to be massive misfortune. It could be just a general feeling of heaviness or hard work or labor, or not getting recognized at the level that you should for the amount of work you're putting in, or even dealing with things like sickness, or small, sort of small chronic perturbances in the body. It can also have something to do with the toil, the things that we're sort of toiling over. So Venus in a house that's related to the mind in your immediate environment, the 3rd house, is overcoming those hardships, but it has to do so while there is this very intense catharsis happening between Jupiter and Pluto in that house. So your peaceful mind will get you through anything this month, and that should be your mantra. But there will be probably some heavier, more sobering, serious, difficult, weighty themes that will be coming up for everyone this month because of the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. But it's how you handle yourself if you're a Leo rising, with peace, nobility, tranquility, serenity, all especially starting in the mind and how you communicate with other people. So watch for those to be big themes of the month. But with Venus also opposing Mars across the 3rd and 9th house axis, this is also going to involve ideology, belief, religion, or spirituality, and the potential for conflicting ideas or values in relationships to be a big part of your month. Now, Mars has been retrograde in your 9th house for a while now, and is turning direct this month. It's been retrograde if you go all the way back to September, and then it's turning direct. When it turns direct, it also signifies that a period of potential hardships or stress or difficulties around beliefs, ideas, religion, spirituality, learning, teachers, that those things are probably going to start resolving themselves. But first, there's this big tension between Venus and Mars across the 3rd and the 9th house axis. So just remember, peace of mind, sort of peace, patience, tolerance, compassion, grace. These themes mentally carry you through the potential for more drama than probably is necessary this month. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you go forward a little bit more into the month and something really interesting happens, so let's go forward to, say, the 14th. This is a story of 2 months within 1 month. You have a new moon planting a seed for a whole lunar cycle ahead in the house of home, family, parents, sometimes father in particular. So expect for there to be something growing and developing around the roots, around your living environment, or your parents or family karma, that you'll start to see that blossoming as the moon cycle unfolds. And then there's several transits that participate in this by virtue of making oppositions from Scorpio to Uranus and Taurus in your career house. Mercury will do it first, about the 16th, 17th. And then the 27th of the month, Venus will have gone into Scorpio and also oppose Uranus in the 10th house. So whatever change is happening, it's really focused on home, family, roots, parents, etc. But it's also involving that rebellious, eccentric, unexpected, and disruptive or erratic energy from Uranus in your career house. So you're doing things differently, you're making sudden changes, or there's unpredictable kind of disruptive events happening around the workplace. That could be a big part of the story as well. And you watch for that from the 14th of November through the 27th in particular. So now, in the midst of that, remember that Venus is also going to overcome for the 15th to the 19th, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. So again, a peaceful mind wins the day this month for just about everyone, but especially for Leos, because that Venus energy is in your third house, which has so much to do with the immediate environment and which is an extension of our mental state. So really pay close attention to that. All right. Finally, if we go forward to the very end of the month, on the 30th, there will be a lunar eclipse in your 11th house, which is the house of groups, friends, allies. And when you get eclipses in these houses, it usually means that your social life is going to change, or that something about your, what's the best way of putting it? The people, sometimes we say, it's my tribe. Who are my people? And changes happening within groups, religious groups, academic groups, social groups, professional groups, but also something coming to a close or a conclusion, maybe around specific friendships or specific allegiances that you have. So your social dynamic is changing a lot in the year ahead, as you're going to get a bunch of eclipses in the 11th house. And this is just one of them, but a lunar eclipse usually means doors closing or things coming to conclusion. So watch for that energy in the house of groups, friends, and allies toward the very end of November. But again, eclipses take a while to play out, and then there are going to be more eclipses in Gemini next spring. So this is something that may play out over the months ahead. So that's pretty good for Leo. We're going to run it back and do it one last time with Sagittarius. Let's go back to the very beginning of the month. And here we go. And oops, here we go. Sagittarius on the ascendant. So if you're a Sagittarius rising, we got to highlight the same three houses again. Libra is leading the month with Venus in Libra overcoming this, the stellium of planets in Capricorn in the second house. And you've also got Venus opposing Mars retrograde, who is also turning direct this month in Aries in the fifth house. So these are the three big houses where all the action is happening. Now, let's discuss the timeline and what to expect. Mercury will square Saturn first week of the month, both retrograde, stationing, and then direct and squaring Saturn again. And then Venus will oppose Mars around the 9th, and then Venus will overcome Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn from the 15th to the 19th. During this time, Jupiter will also conjoin with Pluto in the second house around the 12th of this month. So it really stretches out from the beginning of the month through about the 19th or 20th that you're going to see a lot of emphasis on Venus in the house of friends, groups, allies, benefactors. This is a sign. This month, one of the things that's really important is going to be allowing friends to help you, finding resources and good fortune and aides or allies or friends that can help you move through something, potentially something financially difficult, turning to different groups or organizations to help you because you're struggling financially, or receiving some form of benefit or aid because you're struggling financially. This could also be a time of internal review within an organization, somehow related to finances or work. It could also be that there is some need to discuss or have a meeting with someone or within a workplace. So changes around money and finances related to organizations or groups would come to mind this month. Also, value conflicts or conflicts of value or priority within groups or organizations. You can see that because of Venus's opposition to Mars, and just a general kind of battle of the sexes or tension between the masculine and feminine or the yin and the yang is very much present. The active, aggressive, assertive, individualistic qualities of Mars in the fifth house. This is what I want. This is what brings me happiness or pleasure. Venus in the 11th saying, oh, this is what the group wants, and it's a little different. And both of those are in conversation this month in your chart, those themes. But also, so socially, what's required of you versus personally, what do you want or desire? What is your will? And do you need to make a compromise, or do you need to allow for, sometimes our social lives are just completely out of touch with what we want and what brings us joy and happiness. This could be a month of needing to make some changes because of that. On the other hand, if we're going to have any kind of stable, helpful, useful relationships in our lives, we often have to sacrifice and compromise something of our own, egoic desires and motivations. We have to learn how to work together with other people. Those are themes this month, but it also has a lot to do with compromises that you might be having to make because of deeper transformation that's happening around money and finances. And you can see this because Jupiter is conjoined with Pluto in the second house. So that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is very the idea that you've been dealing potentially with some challenges around money or finances for like a year now, maybe a little bit longer, with Saturn in there since December of 2017, but that there is catharsis that's about to happen. Look, Jupiter and Saturn are about to get out of your second house, which is really beneficial. So I would also just trust that you don't need to try to force anything to happen right now, that there's probably a very natural way in which burdens, especially around finances, will start to lift themselves, but it may require some sacrificing of the ego, or a fight that you have to let go of, or a personal need or ask that you have to let go of. I think that Venus, though, is poised in your 11th house to bring blessings through other people to help you overcome obstacles and difficulties, but there's going to be some compromise that's necessary. That's how I'm seeing it, but I'd love to hear your guys' stories about this too, and you can tell me, if you notice slightly different variations in some of these themes. Now, if we go forward to, let's just say the 14th, we're going to see a new moon in Scorpio. And then shortly after, by the 16th and 17th, you're going to see Mercury oppose Uranus. And then by the 27th, Venus will come into Scorpio and then oppose Uranus as well. This is between your 12th and 6th houses. This is really interesting. It's a story of 2 months because once that new moon in Scorpio comes in, it's like very suddenly things take a very dramatic turn with some real unexpected plot twists the second half of the month if you're a Sagittarius rising. My sense is that this could have something to do with a romantic relationship or with things happening to a partner. And the reason I say that is because the other big thing that's happening at the very end of the month is you have an eclipse taking place, lunar eclipse in the house of marriage and relationships. Venus opposing Uranus across the 12th and the 6th as well. Watch for there to be some unexpected twists and turns in relationships. By that, I don't mean that anything gets worse or gets radically better, but just, for example, a partner gets a new job, a partner's mother gets sick. I'm making stuff up, but something dramatic or unexpected that's either connected to the relationship itself, if you have one, meeting someone new possibly, or having to get out of a relationship, or also something coming up in a relationship that would not necessarily involve something happening in the life of a partner, something peripheral to them that has an impact on them and hence has an impact on you. So I think, I don't want to, worry anyone, but this would definitely point to some big changes in the area of spouse or partner or relationships. And that's happening right on the heels of Venus opposite Uranus across the 12th and the 6th. Probably the unexpected stuff that comes up is not entirely easy, but the silver lining is that whatever's happening in relationships toward the end of the month, especially, it carries over into December, and there is a very new beginning in December with the solar eclipse in your first house and home sign. And that's the big news for you that you have to look forward to, even if this month is a little choppy in the second half. So that's what I've got for you, Sagittarians. I hope that this was interesting to all you fire signs out there. I had to actually re-record part of this because of a goof up I made. So if a wardrobe change happened suddenly, you noticed one, that's why. Anyway, don't forget my new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, starts on November 14th. I'd love to see some of you in class. You know the drill. There's all the info you need is on my website, nightlightastrology.com, or you can email me with questions, info@nightlightastrology.com. All right. I hope you guys have a great month of November, and we'll talk again soon.